Ambient sound, also called ambience or atmos, is the background sound that naturally exists in a location or environment. It gives a sense of space, atmosphere, and realism to a scene. The continuous low level sound present in a setting is called ambient sound. For example, city street, traffic hum, footsteps, distant horns, chatter, forest, birds, rustling leaves, insects, wind, seashore, waves, gulls, breeze. In films and media, it is used to establish place and mood, smooths over edits so there's no unnatural silence between dialogue cuts, enhances immersion, audience feels present in the scene. Recording, usually captured separately as a room tone or wild track on set. In short, ambient sound is the background sonic environment of a scene which makes the audience believe the action is happening in a real, continuous space. What is sound? Sound is a form of energy that travels through a medium like air, water, or solid objects in the form of vibrations or waves that can be heard by the human ear, roughly 20 Hz to 20 kHz. Sound is created when an object vibrates. These vibrations make the particles of the surrounding medium compress and expand, creating a wave. Sound is a mechanical wave, it needs a medium unlike light. It travels as longitudinal waves in air, compressions, and rarefactions. Speed varies, faster in solids, slower in gases. Frequency. How many vibrations per second determines pitch. Amplitude. Size of the waves determines loudness. Wavelength. Distance between wave peaks related to pitch. Timbre. Quality or color of sound. Why a flute sounds different from a guitar. Human hearing range is 20 Hz, low bass to 20,000 Hz, high treble. Below 20 Hz is infrasound and above 20 kHz is ultrasound. Sound is the vibration of particles in a medium transmitted as waves that our ears and brain perceive as hearing. What is sound? Sound is a mechanical wave created by a vibration of an object traveling through a medium, air, water, solids. It needs a medium, cannot travel in vacuum, and it travels in longitudinal waves. Particles move back and forth in the same direction as wave propagation. Frequency. Number of vibrations per second is measured in hertz. Determines pitch. Low frequency is bass. High frequency is treble. Human hearing is 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. Amplitude. Size of vibration. How many energy the wave carries determines loudness. Greater amplitude is louder sound. Wavelength. Distance between two compressions or rarefactions related to speed and frequency. Velocity. Speed of sound depends on the medium. Air, water, steel. Air is 342 m/s, water is 1500 m/s, steel is 5000 m/s. Phase. Position of a point in the wave cycle. Important in recording. Out of phase signals can cancel each other. Phase cancellation. Characteristics of sound. Pitch depends on frequency. Loudness depends on amplitude and sensitivity of ear. Timbre is quality of sound. Why the same notes sound different on violin versus flute, and duration is length of the sound. Acoustics and behavior of sound. Reflection. Sound bounces. Echo. Absorption. Sound absorbed by materials. Curtains, foam. Diffusion. Sound scattered in many directions. Refraction. Bending of sound waves in different media. Example, underwater. Resonance. When a system vibrates strongly at its natural frequency. Example, guitar body amplifies string vibration. Measurement of sound. Decibels. Logarithmic unit of loudness. Whisper 30 dB, conversation 60 dB, rock concert 110 dB, jet engine 140 dB. Sound pressure level. SPL. Measure of pressure variation caused by sound. Human hearing. Psychoacoustics basics. Ear converts vibrations, electric signals, brain interprets. Masking effect. One sound hides another if in the same frequency band. Localization. We detect sound directions by interaural time and intensity differences. The physics of sound is about vibrations traveling as waves with properties like frequency, amplitude, wavelength, velocity. interacting with environments, reflection, absorption, resonance, and perceived by human hearing as pitch, loudness, timbre, and space. What is sound design? Sound design is the art and practicing of creating, recording, manipulating, and arranging audio elements to enhance or support a storytelling experience. It is widely used in films, theater, music, television, video games, radio, podcasts, and even live performances. At its core, sound design involves shaping how audiences hear and feel a story. It can include recording and collecting sounds, capturing natural sounds, birds, footsteps, city noise, using studio recording or sound libraries, creating and synthesizing sounds, making artificial sounds using electronic instruments or software, example space, ship, hums, monster roars, manipulating and editing, modifying pitch, tempo, texture of sounds to match the mood or action, layering and mixing, combining dialogue, ambient sounds, Foley effects, and music into a balanced soundscape, storytelling through sound, setting mood, eerie silence, intense action, guiding attention, door creak before someone enters, building realism, rain, crowd chatter, creating fantasy, magic spells, alien environments. In short, sound design is how we build the audio world of the story, just like cinematography builds the visual world. Foley recreated everyday sounds recorded in sync with the visuals, examples footsteps, door creaks, clothes rustling, glass breaking. Named after Jack Foley, a pioneer in sound effects, purpose adds realism and synchrony that microphones often miss on set. Ambience, background or atmospheric sound, the bed of environmental sound that sets the mood. Examples rain, birds, market noise, wind, crowd chatter. Purpose creates a sense of place and immerses the audience. Automated dialogue replacement. Re recording dialogue in the studio to replace or enhance location sound. Used when on set recording is unclear due to noise or performance issues. Also used for dubbing into other languages. Sound effects. Artificially created or enhanced sounds includes explosions, skyfire weapons, monster growls, magical effects. Can be made through synthesis, layering, or manipulating real world sounds. Diegetic sounds, sounds that exist within the story world, heard by characters. Example, a ringing phone, radio playing in the room, footsteps. Non-diegetic sound, sounds that only the audiences hear, not the characters. Example, background score, narration, dramatic sound cues. Music, score and soundtrack, composed or curated music used to enhance emotion. Score, original background music, soundtrack, pre-recorded song used in the film or game. Voice design, oblique narration, includes voiceovers, commentary, or stylized vocal effects. Important in documentaries, animation, advertising, and games. Silence, the deliberate absence of sound, creates tension, suspension, or emotional weight. In summary, Foley is recreated everyday sounds, ambience is background, oblique environmental sounds, ADR is clean studio dialogue replacement, SFX is designed artificial effects, music, and silence is emotional control. Diegetic versus non-diegetic is storytelling layers. History of sound in cinema. Silent film era 1890s to 1920s. Early films were silent. They had no synchronized recorded dialogue, but they were not watched in silence. Live musicians, piano, organ, orchestra played along. Sound effects artists sometimes created noises alive. Intertitles, written text on screen conveyed dialogue and story. Experiments with sound 1900 to 1920s. Inventors tried syncing film with phonographs or discs, but synchronization was unreliable. Key experimentation was in Edison's kinetophone, tried to combine phonograph sound with film. Gamont's chronophone attended disc sound synchronization. The birth of sound in cinema, late 1920s. Two major systems emerged. Vitaphone, Warner Bros. 1926, used disc synchronized with film. Movietone, Fox 1927, optical sound and film, sound recorded as a track directly on the film strip. Landmark film, The Jazz Singer, the first feature film with synchronized spoken dialogue and singing. Famous line, wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet. This marked the transition of the talkies. The talkies revolution, 1930s to 1940s. Within a few years, Hollywood fully switched to sound. Musical films, screwball comedies, and dialogue-driven dramas flourished. Sound recording moved from single microphones to multi-microphone setups for clarity. Development of sound effects, Foley, and re-recording techniques began. Stereo and surround sound, 1950s to 1970s. Cinerama 1952 introduced multi-channel sound with widescreen. Dolby Stereo 1970s improved noise reduction and multi-track sound mixing. Films like Star Wars 1977 showcased immersive sound design with Dolby systems. Digital sound era 1990s to 2000s. Dolby Digital DTS SDDS brought higher quality surround sound. Computer-based editing and mixing revolutionized sound design. Sound became an essential storytelling tool, not just an accompaniment. Modern cinema sound 2000s to present. Dolby Atmos 2012 and Oro 3D introduced 3D spatial audio with overhead speakers. Immersive soundscapes create realism and emotional depth. Today's sound in cinema includes dialogue recording in ADR, Foley and effects, ambience and soundscapes, complex music integration, full digital mixing and mastering. In short, cinema evolved from silent visuals with live music to synchronized sounds to multi-channel stereo, digital surround, immersive 3D sound. Sound in cinema is not just an add-on, it's half the storytelling. Without sound, even the most beautiful visuals can feel flat, but with powerful sound, even simple images become alive and meaningful. The sound of cinema. When people think of cinema, they often imagine dazzling visuals, stunning cinematography, or iconic performances. Yet, beneath the surface of every great film lies a vital element that often works invisibly, which is sound. Without it, cinema would lose half its power. The sound of cinema is not merely an addition to the image, it is language in itself, shaping how audiences experience stories. Sound as storyteller. Dialogue is the most direct form of storytelling, but sound design goes beyond words. A creaking door, the echo of footsteps, or the sudden crash of glass communicates just as much as an image. These sonic cuts help the audience anticipate events and understand character actions. Sound as emotion. Music is perhaps the most powerful tool of cinematic sound. A swelling score can move us to tears, while a suspenseful soundtrack can set our hearts racing. Sound designers also manipulate silence. Sometimes the absence of sound can be more powerful than noise, heightening tension or emphasizing isolation. Sound as realism. From the rustle of leaves to the distant hum of city traffic, sound creates the illusion of reality. Even when unnoticed, background sounds called ambience anchor the story in a believable world. Silent films, in fact, were never truly silent. Live musicians, narrators, or sound effects were used to bring realism to the moving image. Sound as expression. Beyond realism and emotion, sound in cinema can also be symbolic. A distorted voice might represent a troubled mind. Echoes may signal memory or dream. In this way, sound expresses what images cannot fully capture. Conclusion. Cinema is often described as a visual art, but it is equally an acoustic art. The sound of cinema guides our emotions, deepens our emotion, and makes the unreal believable. As filmmaker David Lynch once said, films are 50% visual and 50% sound. Sometimes sound even overplays the visual. Indeed, the true magic of cinema is not only seen, it is also heard. Here's a list of 10 Bollywood films known for outstanding sound design, where sound was used creatively to heighten storytelling, atmosphere, and emotion. Lagaan. The use of natural ambience, dust storms, cricket bat balls, sounds, village atmosphere immerses viewers in colonial India. A.R. Rahman's songs blend seamlessly into the soundscape. Black. Sound is central to depicting the inner world of a blind and deaf protagonist. Silence and distorted sounds powerfully convey her perception. Omkara. Rustic ambience, folk sounds, and earthy effects created the raw texture of rural Uttar Pradesh. Dialogue delivery with authentic dialects enriches realism. Taare Zameen Par. Sound design mirrors the protagonist's dyslexia. Muffled classroom sounds, chaotic overlaps, and heightened emotional cues. Rock on. Rock music blends with crowd ambience, live performances, and recording room authenticity. Shows the contrast between stage life and personal silence. Three Idiots. Strong use of ambience and background sounds in classroom, hostel, and dramatic sequences. Balances comedy, drama, and emotion with clever sound cues. People Live. Led soundscape capturing chaotic rural India mixed with noisy media frenzy. Background chatter, news, sound bites, and village ambience enrich satire. Barfi uses silence, foley, and environment creatively since the protagonist is mute and partially deaf. Sound often acts as narrative rather than dialogue. Gully Boy. Crisp recording of rap battles, Mumbai street sounds, and studio sessions. The city's raw sonic identity becomes part of the narrative. Tumbar. A masterpiece in atmospheric sound design, thunder, rain, eerie silences, and whisper builds the gothic horror tone. Sound is as terrifying as the visuals. These films show how Indian cinema has grown in sound design from immersive ambience to psychological soundscapes and experimental uses where sound almost becomes a character. Key points about sound design: definition and purpose. Sound design is the art and practice of creating, recording, editing, and mixing sound elements for a film, theater, radio, TV, video game, or any other media. The purpose is to support storytelling, create mood or atmosphere, build realism, or heighten emotion. Types of sound in media: diegetic sound, sound within the story world, dialogues, footsteps, door creaks; non diegetic sound, sound outside the story world, background score, narrator's voice; synchronous sound matches the action on screen, gunshot when a gun fires; asynchronous sound doesn't match the visible source, off screen, dog barking. Elements of sound design: dialogue recorded on set or ADR, automated dialogue replacement, Foley, recreation of everyday sound effects in sync with visuals; ambience or atmosphere, background environmental sounds, traffic, birds, crowds; sound effects, SFX, designed or artificial sounds, explosions, sci-fi lasers; music, background scores, songs, set tones, and emotion. Silence is a powerful tool, creates tension, focus, or calm. The language of atmosphere. Sound defines the tone and mood of a film. The same visual scene can feel romantic with soft violence, eerie with dissonant drones, or comic with playful music. Directors and composers carefully craft soundscapes to ensure that audiences feel the intended emotion. Ramesh Sippy's Sholay is not only a landmark in Indian cinema for storytelling and visuals, but also for its sound design, which was ahead of its time in Bollywood. Here's an overview. Sound design in Sholay. Dolby like experience in mono. Though released in mono sound, since Dolby systems weren't yet common in India, Sholay was mixed with such precision that it felt immersive. The film's sound engineer, Mangesh Desai, is often credited with raising the bar for Indian film sound. Iconic dialogue delivery. The sound design amplified memorable lines, Gabbar Singh's booming "Kitne aadmi the," with echoes and pauses that heightened menace. Careful balancing ensured dialogue stayed clear even in noisy action sequences. Use of silence. Silence was used as effectively as sound. For example, in tense moments before Gabbar appears, silence creates fear and anticipation. Action sequences. Gunfire, explosions, and horseback chases were designed with layered effects. The sound of bullets or the metallic clink of chains, giant video and shackles added realism. Ambient soundscapes, village life, birds, cattle, temple bells, and market chatter made Ramgarh feel alive. Rural landscapes came to life with wind sounds, footsteps on dry earth, and echoes in the ravines. Gabbar's theme through sound. Even before Amjad Khan appears, the jangle of his spurs, his laughter, and footsteps build his character sonically. The design made Gabbar terrifying even when off screen. Music, sound integration. R.D. Burman's background score blends with effects. The dramatic drum beats, haunting flute, and harmonica played by Jay became part of the soundscape. Legacy. Sholay showed Indian audiences that sound was not just technical, it was just storytelling in itself. Its dialogues, gunshots, and ambient tracks became so iconic that they still remembered almost 50 years later. Principles of good sound design. Clarity. Dialogue and key sounds must be audible, balance, proper mix of dialogue, music and effects, perspective sound, matches distance, space, near and far, left and right, continuity, smooth transition across cuts. Creativity uses sound metaphorically or symbolically. Processes in sound design. Number 1, recording, location sound, studio sound, Foley. Number 2, editing, cleaning, syncing, layering. Number 3, designing, creating or manipulating sounds. 4 is mixing, balancing levels, spatial placement, EQ, reverb. And 5 is final output, stereo surround, Dolby Atmos. Technical aspects, sample rate and bit depth, higher, better quality, mono versus stereo versus sound, spatial experience, diegetic space, uses reverb and echo to match environment, dynamic range, balances between loud and soft sounds. Common questions related to sound design is define sound design, difference between diegetic and non-diegetic sound, explain Foley with examples, role of ambience in cinema, principle of good sound mixing, why silence is important in sound design, and functions of a sound designer in a film. Roles in sound team: sound designer, overall creative vision for sound editor, cleans, edits, and organizes audio tracks, Foley artist, creates everyday sound effects, re-recording mixer, final mixing of all elements, location sound recordist, captures dialogue and sync sound during shoot. Elements of sound design: dialogue recorded on set or ADR, Foley recreation of everyday sound effects in sync with visuals, ambience or atmosphere, background environmental sounds, traffic, birds, crowd, sound effects, SFX designed, artificial sounds, explosions, sci-fi lasers, music, background score, songs, sets, tone and emotion. Silence is a powerful tool, creates tension, focus or contrast. Sound design of Sholay: iconic use of silence, ambient sound, distinctive gunshots, horse gallops, R.D. Burman's music interacts with SFX, Gabbar's laugh, character identity. Designing a horror scene: low frequency rumbles, sudden silences, distorted whispers, creaking doors, jump scare, loud sound after silence. Music versus sound effects for suspense: music builds mood gradually, SFX, realism, sudden shocks together, jaws, music motives, water, ambient sounds. ADR workflow: recorded guide track, loop lines, actors, re-record and sync, lip sync adjustment, mix with ambient, sound bridges and editing, carrying sound from one scene over to the next, maintains flow, thematic connection. Examples: train, whistle, bridges two scenes in Pother Panchal. Analog versus digital: analog continuous wave, warm, noise prone. Digital is sampled, quantized, clean, editable. Signal chain: mic and speaker, microphone, preamp, recorder, DAW, editing, mixing, amplifier, loudspeaker, listener. Stages of post production: dialogue edit, ADR, Foley, FX, background music, premix, final mix, and master. Equalization: boost oblique cut frequencies to balance mix, removes hum, enhances clarity, helps separate dialogue, FX, and music. Why sound design? Builds realism, world feels natural, enhances emotion, fear, joy, tension, guides storytelling, focuses on audience attention, immerses audience in time and space. Films with good sound design: Tridev, Gupt, Mohra, Sholay, Andaz Apna Apna, Agnipat, Pyasa. Functions of sound in cinema: narrative, dialogue, exposition, emotional, music and mood, spatial, location, depth, perspective, continuity, bridges, transitions. Sound designer workflow: script breakdown, spotting, session recording, location, Foley editing, ADR, FX, music, mixing, final master. Types of microphones: dynamic, rugged, used on sets, condenser, sensitive, studio or ADR. Ribbon, warm tone music, shotgun, directional sync, sound outdoors. Sound in Satyajit Ray, example Charulata, naturalistic ambient sounds, minimal but meaningful music. Silence and small noises emphasize character psychology. Dolby surround or 5.1 mixing, 6 channels, left, right, center, LS/RS subwoofer, emotion, dialogue, center, effects, surround, music, left, oblique, right. Challenges of location sound recording: ambient sound, ambient noise, traffic, crowd, echo, reverb in open spaces, sync issues, weather, and technical limitations. Ambient sound: natural background sounds of a location, birds, traffic, wind, creates realism, continuity. Example: rain sound in Pothir Panchali adds mood and atmosphere. Diegetic versus non-diegetic: diegetic sound originates inside the story world, dialogue, footsteps, radio playing on screen. Non-diegetic: external to story world, background score, narrator's voiceover. Foley: reproduction of everyday sounds in a studio, footsteps, clothes rustling, door creaks, enhances realism and sync. Room tone: silence recorded in each location, used to fill gaps in editing, keeps audio tracks natural. Rule of silence: creates tension, focus, or contrast. Example: sudden silence before gunfire in Sholay increases impact. Acousmatic sound: sound whose source is unseen, voice behind curtain, radio announcer, builds mystery or authority. Speed of sound is important for sync sound, distant causes delay, echo, phase problems. Sound versus camera perspective, visual distance, sound perspective, perceived audio distance, should match close up, needs close sounding voice but can be stylized for effect.